So, faithful to God, he basically, made an innuendo, but it was a direct innuendo towards me on his video yesterday with Brotha J on a late night chill. And I find it kind of funny the terminology that he used to describe me. And basically, by him using that term troll is automatically what you would call an ad hominem, because I just want to show y'all what a troll is, the different versions of a troll. I mean, I've been on message boards since 1998. You know what I mean? So I definitely know what a troll is. But a troll offers absolutely little to no value. And their whole gambit is to distract and derail a message board. But in a way, okay, let's put it like this. So basically, if you're talking about fishing and somebody comes on your message board and they're talking about skating, or you're talking about football and they're talking about doing math, and they're just persistent and won't stop, that's a troll. You know what I mean? So I don't know what his point was for basically calling me a troll, because by him calling me a troll, he automatically makes himself guilty of being a troll, because what I consider myself doing is correcting those with incorrect understanding of the Bible, or basically calling out heretics. And that's basically what he calls himself doing when he makes videos about IUIC, GMS, AOC, ISUPK, and all the One West groups. In his mind, he's not trolling, but by his own definition, he's a troll, because he says that I like to make videos, and as we know, he likes to make videos. Some of my videos are about him, which is somebody that doesn't stand on the same side as me. And basically, he's doing the same thing by making videos about groups that don't stand on the same side as him. So, in other words, faithful, he's a troll as well. So, I mean, just looking at the different definitions of a troll, we're going to look at two. To antagonize others online by deliberately posting inflammatory, irrelevant, or offensive comments or disruptive content. Okay? And then they give you an example. Trolls engage in the most outrageous and offensive behavior possible. All the better to troll you with. So a troll, in that aspect, just wants to make you angry. I wouldn't consider myself a troll, because I'm not trying to make them angry. I'm trying to pull them out of the heresy that they are in. And if you want to call that trolling, then hey, that means you're sensitive, you're emotional, and you don't like to be corrected. And as a result, guess what? The truth hurts. You are a heretic. And when Brotha J called IUIC, when he called their radio show, whatever it was, in fact, he himself was trolling, because he was fishing for a certain answer. I mean, he was fishing for a certain hook, and he got blasted on it, and he didn't like it. So, under faithful own definition, Brotha J is a heretic. I mean, he's a troll. Okay? So let's read B. That act as a troll on a forum or site. So basically, that troll is someone that's antagonizing, and they post deliberately inflammatory messages, sort of like Eddie Barrera, whatever his name is. He always has something derogatory to say when you don't really agree with him. Then he wants to mudsling and talks all all types of garbage and nonsense, but it's okay. And I guess C is what faithful meant, to harass, criticize, or antagonize someone, especially by provocatively despairing. So that's basically trying to piss somebody off with little or no content. Oh, I think I come with plenty of content because I bring out scriptures. So even in that sense, if he's calling me a troll, then he's a troll because he brings out scriptures and his scriptures are so far out of context. Or mocking public statements, postings, or acts. I'm not really mocking you. I'm just showing the heresy. By you coming out in your flesh and making certain statements and just putting it out there like a little surprise, like you're gonna do a little clown session or whatever. Tell you what, we all know how to joke. We all know how to do that. So if you want to turn it from something being edifying, hey, then you could be the troll. And I tell you what, I don't mind feeding the troll. So if you want to be a troll, I'll feed you. I'll feed you your little troll behind. So hey, bring it. That's all I gotta say. But you know what? You better bring it correct, because if you decide to make that video this Friday and you try to make scriptures contradict scriptures, you're gonna lose all credibility. Brother J, he's already joined a heretic organization, and that is the premise of this video right here, to show the heresy that Brother J just joined. He joined one Hebrew group to join another one, which we're about to find out. Okay, here's how you know Brother J, in his own words, left one coat. But one thing he didn't realize, in his own words, he left one coat without knowing that he joined another coat. Okay, he left one Hebrew group for another Hebrew group, and the amazing part about it is, Faithful is very cunning, a very cunning guy. I mean, as far as just somebody who's gentle, meek, and just comes with eloquent speeches. He does that, and it's very tricky. But we know that serpent can beguile you as well. So the funny part about what Faithful, he's quick to tell you he was a part of the Hebrew roots movement, but he would, but just by saying that he was a part of the Hebrew roots movement is a little deceptive, only because the Hebrew roots movement has so many subcategories to them. And I think after just going to Wikipedia, I found the Hebrew roots movement that Faithful was a part of, because after I read this, you're going to see some of the same characteristics in Faithful every time he speaks. So he might have left the movement only because the movement rejected him, because there was on a website, and I'm hoping I can find it. There was a farewell letter to the Hebrew roots movement, and they basically said it was a group of Hebrew roots. I forget who they were, but I know who they were. I just don't want to put them out there because their site is down now, and so it wouldn't really be fruitful for me to even name them. But they uploaded a farewell letter to their website that basically said, farewell Hebrew roots movement, because the movement started out good, but as time passed, they noticed that specific members in the group were more interested in being right and contentious versus edifying the people. And to me, that sounds so close to Faithful, that he just wants to argue. Every time you hear him talk about somebody, he just wants to debate, because he felt like he learned so much from the Hebrew roots movement that he doesn't need the movement anymore. And I'm pretty sure they kicked his behind out. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm not going to say they did, but, just me noticing him, it's very easy to kick a brother out like that because he's so overbearing. You know, even on Jay's channel yesterday, Jay was telling them to, basically fall back faithful, and he did not listen to his brother. They were not on the same page. But I am noticing something since I made my videos. Faithful has shifted his whole position and the way he looks at certain things. And I'm not gonna really get into it because that'll be something to break down for later if he gets out of pocket. But he has been rerouted, and he knows it, and he knows it. I'm just listening to some of the things that he said since I started making the videos, and he's making references to. He knows that I have been doing those videos, and he's adopted some of the characteristics that are in my videos. So no matter how bad he tries to discredit my videos, he is stealing snippets. He's been a plagiarist, but he's being subtle about it. And I notice it because I made the videos, and those videos are a representation of who I am. So I know that, and I see those fruits bearing in him. You know what I mean? I see those fruits. So you can try to hide it all you want, faithful, but at the end of the day, you got a little mini me of fruit, that you bit off and now it's coming out. So, and I'm gonna just leave that there. But let's get into this Christian Hebrew roots movement, section of the let's get to the Christian Hebrew roots movement section of the Hebrew roots. All right, and this is what Wikipedia says. The Hebrew roots movement is related to a subgroup known as Christian Hebrew roots. This subgroup follows the Ten Commandments. He'll tell you that, he follows the Ten Commandments and the feast of the Lord. But like mainstream Christianity, it believes that all other Old Testament requirements have been done away with. He's quick to tell you that everything else is done away with. And I'm not sure about the feast anymore. He might have changed his stance on that, but he does believe in the Ten Commandments because he feels like the two most important commandments that Christ summed up are a representative of the Ten Commandments. So he still holds true to the Ten Commandments, but he uses that word, that phrase often, done away with. Okay. The Christian Hebrew roots movement rejects many of the same practices other Protestant sects that the Hebrew roots movement rejects. And you will hear them say, hey, don't think that we're, the Christian that you can find up in your local churches like the Baptists, the Methodists, and the Protestants, and all of those different. He's quick to throw out those things. So you would notice as this description goes on that this is likely the sect of the Hebrew roots movement that Faithful was a part of, and within him he's still a part of it, but he just might not congregate with them anymore. Many Protestant sects that the Hebrew roots movement rejects, in particular, they reject the Roman Catholic Church. He's quick to say, yeah, we reject the Roman Catholic Church. We reject Mormons. We reject Jehovah's Witnesses. All of those are cults to us. That's what he says. And instead follow what it sees as the biblical teachings set forth in the New Testament regarding the nature of communion. Oh, man. I think we hit on something right here. As a symbol of Christ's body instead of the literal body. He uses that word literal body and flesh of Jesus. This they deduce from the words Jesus spoke to describe what they call an amendment. And that's kind of vague, but I got to start paying attention to him more. Does he use that word amendment to the Passover service as being symbolic and not literal? And he will say, I have heard him, and I think he has used the word amendment to the Passover services. I'm pretty sure he has. The Christian Hebrew roots movement does not teach a return to the law as dispensed by the scribes who Jesus rebuked as hypocrites. That's true, and that's faithful all day. They interpret the law as pertaining to the Torah. So anytime, even me and Faithful had discussions in the Hangouts where I'm saying Faithful in this context, they're talking about the oral traditions. Oh no, brother, I'm gonna take you to another scripture where it says the law, and that's how you know. That lets me know that he's a heretic because this right here is basically summing up what he says, and not the Jewish oral law, also known as the Talmud, as the Hebrew roots movement interprets it. So he's still holding these same ideologies that he learned from the Hebrew roots movement, and I think specifically this Christian Hebrew roots movement. Instead, the Christian Hebrew roots movement follows what it claims is the worship pattern of Jesus. Oh man, this isn't Faithful all day. Who claim they freed mankind from the yoke of the letter of the law. That's Faithful. And in fulfilling the law, Jesus taught Christians to practice only the Ten Commandments and feasts of the Lord, which make up the acceptable year of the Lord, in his speech inaugurating his personal earthly ministry. I'm telling you, Faithful, he was a well-learned student of the Hebrew roots movement, and I'm pretty sure it's this section right here. I'm gonna keep saying it because he's saying that I'm being a troll, but this isn't really being a troll, calling him out and just educating people on where he comes from as far as what he tells everybody, because nobody really knows who he is. This main distinction between the two groups is that followers of the Hebrew roots movement understand the word fulfill, plero, Greek word 41 and 37, found in Matthews 5 and 17, to mean fill up. Oh man, I'm believing this is Faithful all the day, specifically with meaning. This is the contradiction to destroy, with which it is contrasted early in the same verse. Fulfill is also found to mean to place the commandments of God on a firmer footing by interpreting them correctly in terms of God's ultimate will as he originally intended for his commandments to be obeyed, and not dispensing with them as something that has been done away with by the atoning work of Christ. That's what they say. That's Faithful. That's why he says, oh man, that pork doctrine, that's a Romans 14 thing. That is the most unchristian thing that you could ever say, because there is nothing where the disciples said, you know what, I'm going to say this, but you leave it up to your own interpretation and do what you feel. They said, y'all don't know what y'all worship, but we know what we worship. They were very, very clear in how they presented things. So Faithful, you just show that you're not a Christian, and Brother J, you went from one to another, but you went down a a deeper slope. And I think you might be at a point of no return. But just hearing all the different movements that you were in, you were just in a whole lot of stuff. So I mean, you'll probably get bored with this after a while, which I'm hoping you do. Both movements include adherents who are of Jewish heritage as well as Gentile heritage. The Christian Hebrew roots movement is completely non-denominational, consisting of persons from many different religious backgrounds, and teaches adherence to the health laws of the Torah, but not the portions of Torah which it believes were abandoned by Jesus Christ. So, in other words, they teach the health laws, and I'm not sure Faithful does. I got to pay him a little bit more attention. But it does seem like he picks and chooses his arguments. He goes to the Old Testament to, justify what he's saying. But if you feel like these laws are done away with, you shouldn't even have to go back to the Old. So that lets you know that there's confusion right there. Because if the Old is done away with, you shouldn't even be referencing it at all. But you do. Because without the Old Testament, your footing is not there. Okay? You need that tutor. You need that schoolmaster. And you lean on that schoolmaster very well. As such, they function as sort of a bridge between true Hebrew roots theology and mainstream Christianity. Oh man, that's Faithful all day. The Hebrew criticism, the Hebrew roots movement has been called a group of heretical, non-Christian, and non-Jewish cults. That Hebrew roots movement is still unfaithful because that Christian movement, that is him all day long. It might be a few bullet points in there that don't pertain to him, but for the most part, 90% of this little description is faithful all day long. Non-Christian because it accepts non-Christian because it accepts Christ as Savior, and accepts the Torah as a spiritual authority and believes in the New Testament teaches that as well. Non-Jewish because Hebrew roots accept Jesus Christ as Savior and rejects the Talmud as a spiritual authority. All religious bodies, from local Bible studies to megachurches, have a leader because the indications are that the Hebrew roots movement is generating from the grassroots. There isn't a church, there isn't a leader. The question arises as to when leaders of only numerous small local and for the most part disconnected home Bible study groups qualify as a leader of a worldwide cult. So they don't have any so-called leaders, but they do have so-called leaders. And right now we're seeing very clearly that Faithful, he wanted to be a leader, so now he's building up his own cult movement. So let's skip down to let me continue reading. Home fellowships are growing, and they are not just Hebrew roots. Although there is a number of Hebrew roots teachers with their own ministries, faithful, there is no Hebrew roots college or seminary to attend. This is not to exclude the fact that there are relatively few Hebrew ministries that have a formal congregation and or ministry of which such the leader directly presides over and can direct its members as he wishes. So they don't have any leaders, but they do have a leader. You know what I mean? That's one of those oxymorons. People gathering in their homes to explore and learn scripture on their own, where one is free to come and go, and where someone has to organize and lead a group, is far different from a cultic leader seeking a name on a national stage and wishing to establish a large membership. See, now what Faithful he's trying to do is he's trying to transition himself to a large membership because now he's going after the larger camps, and he makes it clear he every time he can he tags IUIC, ISUPK, he tags them in his videos to get attention from their members and people following them. Put it like this, Faithful. Yeah, I tagged you so those that are following you can see that you are a heretic. That's it. I don't want your followers to follow me because I'm nothing. But and plus the little sect that you do have following you is a nothing burger. Put it like this: YouTube has 1 million viewers per month. Okay, so if you get 1,000 views, even if you get 10,000 views, that makes you less than 1%. That makes you at 1 millionth percent, which is very, very insignificant on a YouTube level. You are a non-contributor according to people that could post a video and within hours they have 500,000 or 600,000 viewers. You are a nothing burger in the YouTube world. So for you to think that I'm using you as a springboard to get a name recognition, you're really a vain man for that because you are a nothing burger when it comes to YouTube. Okay, I'm doing this because I know that you got certain people that's following you, and I see that you being a heretic trying to call out other heretics. But when I call you out for doing what you're doing to other people, then you want to call me a troll. Let's read on. Hebrew roots repeats the heresy of the Judaizers. Please note, well, I guess you don't use the Judaizer. That's why you're a Christian Hebrew roots movement follower. Please note that the person who wrote the following criticism is saying Hebrew roots movement people keep the law to earn salvation, which you don't because you feel like the law is done away with. All right, so that's enough of that. So I haven't really done any scriptures because this is just a primer for the countdown to what Faithful said he was going to do, a thorough refutation to my videos. So, bring it, brother. I love edification. And if I'm wrong, I'll tell you in the videos. If I'm wrong, refute it. That's what I say. So don't think I would take it personal, but if you come, you better come correct. You better come correct because I would not take any lumps and bruises and defamation of character from you whatsoever. I won't do it. I'm not built like that. I'm trying to attain the faith of Christ. You know what I mean? So that means by me trying, I still have some earthly elements and fleshly elements in me, and sometimes it will lash out. So just keep that in mind if you decide to go in a fleshly form. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it like I'm gonna do harm and try to hunt you down and beat you up. No, I will address the video according to how you present it, and that's just that. So however you give it, that's how you gonna get it, plain and simple. So now let's get down to the cultic's leadership role that Faithful plays that a lot of people don't recognize. Let's see what the characteristics of a cult leader are. Okay, I found these characteristics of a narcissist, or 14 ways narcissists can be like cult leaders. Okay, and to me, Faithful, he definitely is a narcissist. Cult leaders act larger than life. They are viewed as innately good, possessing special wisdom, answerable to no one, with no one above them. Okay, let's see if we can find that in Faithful, because he feels like he has the best wisdom. To him, everybody's breakdowns are terrible. Everybody has a terrible understanding of the Bible, but Faithful, or those that agree with his ideology. If you don't agree with his ideology, then it's just a terrible breakdown. Oh man, they're just straight, you know, wicked. And I agree. If you feel like you're in the truth, then anything that's out of your truth is considered terrible. But he he's just a narcissist with it. There's no humbleness. Even though he tries to say, "Okay, I'm humble," there's no humbleness there. But let's see if we can see Jay practicing unanswerable to no one and possessing special wisdom. Let's see. And no one is above them.
So when you say that the Messiah has done everything for you, all you have to do is believe on him and everything is fixed, you are making him an idol and you are turning him into a god. So
But David,
so,
but he
hold
is
on, time out, time out,
hold
time
on.
out, time out.
No,
I'm
no, no, no,
talking,
no, no,
I'm
no,
talking,
David.
I'm talking, I'm
Yeah,
talking.
let me
Hold
finish.
on, hold on. So
We're not turning it into a God. He
hold
is
on, hold on,
God.
hold on. See, and
We don't have to turn
that
him
hold
into
on,
something that
okay,
he is.
Come on,
that's
Faith.
fine. That's fine. If that's what you believe, that he is the most
It's not
high.
what I believe, it's
Hey,
what the
time out.
scriptures say.
I'm talking, sir.
Right, but
Now
that's what the scriptures say.
there,
It's not
there,
what I
there,
believe, it's what the scriptures say.
there is a clear distinction in the scriptures that even the Messiah himself made between the Father and himself. Which, if
But
you
again, do you think that when I say he's God,
Well,
wait, do
let
you
me finish. Let me finish the point.
no,
And
no, no,
correct
no,
them on
no,
it.
no, Jay, because we're gonna keep going in circles. Now, do
No,
you
no, I'm saying
think
just
that
let him finish, so he won't say that you
but
cut him off,
but
and
the,
then
but the
correct him
thing
where
is
he's wrong
that but the
after.
thing no, hold on, Jay, but here's the problem. He continually misrepresents what Christians believe, and
That's
we're going to
I
continue to
understand that.
go
That's
on
why
in
I'm saying let him
circles.
that's
finish,
what you just
and then
said, my brother.
correct him on
No, when
where
I said he's God,
he's
listen
wrong.
to me. When I said he is God, I am
Mhm.
referring to him as God the Son. I didn't say he's God the Father. I don't know where you're getting this idea that Christians, when they say Christ is God, they're saying he's the Father.
Because there is no such thing that the Trinity is a made up concept.
No, it's not.
So
It's a biblical concept.
there's nowhere in the scriptures that says that there is a Trinity. Even if you go to John, where it says that there are three who bear witness, that is because the Most High is Akkad.
Let me
Heaven
ask
and
you.
earth
Let me
also
ask
bear.
you something.
Sir, I'm talking.
But here's the problem. This is again a logical fallacy. The fact that the term Trinity doesn't appear in the Bible does not mean that the concept of the Godhead, i.e., the Trinity, is not biblical. It's the same way as
No,
me telling you
it's
when you use
not.
the term. Wait, it's the same way when you say dietary law. If I were to say to you, why are you using that extra biblical term dietary law, which doesn't appear in the scriptures, but you use the term dietary law? So why are you being double-minded in using one term when it applies to something that
I'm
you are
not.
advocating for? But if I use the term Trinity, which is a biblical concept, and I can show you in the Bible that it's a biblical concept, somehow you think that that's extra biblical
First of
when it's
all,
not.
you can only show me the Trinity in the New Testament and possibly only in one verse. Secondly,
I can show you in the Old Testament.
secondly,
All right, as you just saw in the clip, Faithful could not bridle his tongue. You know, even though I understand that the guy David, he used a trigger word, you know, in the way he was describing Faithful's belief with God, but when if you are not the leader of a group, and you say that you're not a leader, and if you're not a leader, and one of your equal brothers tell you to hold up, let him speak, you right there show that you are not on the same page, that you just disregarded what Brother J said in that instance, and you carried on until you got your point out. And then once you got your point out, you felt like, okay, now you could shut up and you could listen to David. And that is the signs of a cult. And to your credit, you know, you read through the message board a little later, and then you kind of apologized, and Jay accepted it. But at the end of the day, you are showing that. Cult members, number two, cult members' rights are subjugated for the good of the group, leader, or cause. Members are told that the cult wants them to, what the cult wants them to do is for their own good, even if it's self-destructive. Yeah, he's telling Jay that, you know, his breakdowns are good for Jay, and those breakdowns are self-destructive. And us versus them attitude prevails. And that's what he's basically saying, us versus them, which I understand. But he's portraying a lot of the characteristics of a narcissist cult leader. And I'm not saying that he fits all of these, but he fits a lot of them. The leader or cause becomes all important. Members devote inordinate amounts of time to the leader and group, leaving little time for self care or reflection. Man, you see that, you know, they spend a lot of time in these back chats, you know, going over this stuff. Feelings are devalued, minimized, and manipulated. Shame, guilt, coercion, and appeals to fear keep members in line. Members are led to discount their instincts and intuition and told to seek answers from the leader. And you'll see a lot of times where faith will be like, "No, Jay, no, you're wrong. Let me just explain it to you right quick, Jay. Let me explain this because I'm not sure you quite understand." Yeah, he's manipulating them and devaluing them at the same time in a lot of those hangouts. Questioning and dissents are not tolerated. Yeah, just like we saw. Faithful did not like the line of questioning of how the conversation was going. Having doubts about the leader or cult is considered shameful or sinful. Members are told that doubts and dissents indicate something wrong with the member. The end justifies the means. The rightness of the leader and cult justifies behaviors that violate most people's standards for ethics and honesty. In zealotry of the cult, anything goes. So, you know, he tells everybody, "Oh, you got to bridle your tongue," but we just saw in a clip that he wasn't able to do that. He was justified by the way he felt he should have handled it. He felt justified at that point, and he apologized at the end, but he will do it again because he always does, from what I notice. Closeness to the cult and leader is rewarded while distance is punished. I don't know about that. Cult members are on an endless treadmill of becoming. Only the cult leader is considered perfect. Oh man, that's faithful all day. That's him all day. All other members have strived to emulate the leader. Most cults are set up so that the members can never achieve this perfection, which keeps them dependent. Lies are repeated so often they seem true. Oh yeah, man. I'm not gonna do that again. I'm not gonna act like that again. And he does it again. Cult leaders enrich themselves at members' expense. Members are encouraged or coerced in gratifying the leader's needs by giving up time, money, and more. I don't think Jay's giving up any money, but he's definitely giving up a lot of time to faithful. From what I see, just doing these hangouts and how they talk about back chats. And I might be wrong, so let me not bear that false witness. So I apologize for that. But as you see, out of these 11, a large portion of these points describes faithful. Let's see if we can find any more characteristics. Here's a few of the bullet points about faithful from another website. I didn't look at the 1 through 10 because basically they're talking about sexual acts in certain ways and things pertaining to sex, and that's not dealing with this case. But let's start with 11. Is hypersensitive to how he is seen and perceived by others. That's faithful. Very hypersensitive. He just always has to prove a point, and he knows when he steps out of line because then he has to be so apologetic and But how can you keep apologizing and keep doing things that are just backwards? Let me see. I think my battery's going dead on my laptop. Hold on 1 second. All right. Publicly devalues others as being inferior, incapable, and not worthy. That's 12. Makes members confess their sins or faults publicly, subjecting them to ridicule or humiliation while revealing exploitable weaknesses of penitent. Well, I don't really see him making people confess their sins or whatever, but he does, show weaknesses, by saying, hey, Brother J, you don't really understand what this means. Let me step in. Or, when Jay is having a debate, oh man, I need to be in this debate because Brother J, I don't think he understands. And, just, saying all of this stuff, just basically belittling him, and that's supposed to be his brother. 15 is boastful. Is frequently boastful of accomplishments. He wants to say that he has the best breakdowns. 18 doesn't listen well to well, I can't say that, but he doesn't listen well to needs of others. I can't say that, but communication is usually one way in the form of dictates, haughtiness, grandiosity, and the need to be controlling as a part of his personality, as we just saw in that clip, that he refused to bridle his tongue. It wasn't his platform, but he just had to have his way. And once he got what he wanted, then he fell back. Behaves as though people are objects to be used, manipulated, or exploited for personal gain. Can't say that's him. When criticized, he tends to lash out, not just with anger, but with rage. I'm not going to say he's an angry man or I've seen rage, but I have seen that, as we just saw, he'll cut you off passionately, has to talk over you, and, that just lets you know. I mean, he's not a good listener, and that's one of the signs of a cult leader. Anyone who criticizes or questions him is called the enemy. I don't know if he calls him an enemy, but he definitely wants to challenge you, and I got to have a debate. This, that, and the third refers to non-members or non-believers in him as the enemy. So if you don't believe in what he says, then he definitely wants to challenge you. And he's more so wanting to be right than actually edifying people. And to me, that's like the nail of that's the staple of a cult leader. So we'll see how he handles his response video on whichever video that he decides to respond of mine. I'm open and I'm interested to see what information he brings out. But let's just hope it's fruitful.
Sorry.
You're not going to find
Okay.
a single verse in the Old Testament to substantiate the claim that because it makes. And keep in mind, that the clean and just because it talks about clean and unclean animals, that somehow this idea that, well, Noah couldn't eat the unclean animals, it's just false, man. They absolutely did eat the unclean animals. His generations ate them.
Well,
And
once
Genesis
again,
8:20 actually shows you the reason why he had those distinctions of clean versus unclean. And it all had to do with what was clean or not, what was suitable or not suitable for the altar. You read that on in Hebrew, I mean, not Hebrews. Yeah, Genesis 8:20.
Genesis 8:20.
Because it would make no sense for example, before sin entered into the world, what sense would it have made for man who was innocent and had not known evil, for God to then tell them, thou shalt not commit adultery? Well, they don't know what evil is. There's no purpose for that command. That's why it came afterwards. Honor your mother and your father. Well, obviously they didn't have a mother and a father, so they were, animals created from God.
All right, Brother J is basically saying that before Moses, you didn't have anything to say, thou shalt not kill. I mean, thou shalt not commit adultery. I think he said, and something about honor thy mother and thy father. All right, let's see what Leviticus 20 says. For everyone that curseth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. He hath cursed his father or his mother, his blood shall be upon him. Okay, let's read verse 10. And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and adulteress shall surely be put to death. And when you skip down to verse 23 in Leviticus 20, this is what it says. Ye shall not walk in the manner of the nation which I cast out before thee, for they all committed these things, and therefore I abhorred them. So, why would the Lord hate somebody who he didn't give the laws to? Because he did give the laws to him. And Noah was a wonderful preacher. So that pretty much debunks what Jay was just saying right there. And that's just one heretical moment that Jay, failed on. And this is why, I say Jay really doesn't know what he's talking about, because he was saying something about can you hold somebody innocent to the law who basically didn't know good, that didn't know evil. Well, the same book of Genesis that he was in pretty much debunks what he was saying. Genesis 2:17. But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in that day thou eatest, therefore thou shalt surely die. Okay, so now let's go to chapter 3, verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, well, let's remember the name of the tree was good and evil. Okay, but of the tree of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. Okay, now let's go to Genesis 3 and 6. But when the woman saw the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of both of them were open. What were they open to, Jay? Good and evil. And they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. And then, just to put it in a different context, Noah, he was a preacher of righteousness. That's why he was saved from the flood. And Peter says that in the New Testament. So I don't know where you getting that the other nations before Moses they were innocent and couldn't do any evil. Because Leviticus 20, 20 and 23 tells you that the Lord hated them because they did all of those wicked things like committing adultery, like cursing thy mother, and sleeping with their uncles, wives, and cousins, and all of that foolishness. So, how do they know? Because the eyes of Adam and Eve were open, and it was passed down to Noah, as referenced in 2 Peter 2 and 5. And spare it not the old world, but save Noah, the eighth person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly. How can you be ungodly? What is ungodly? Ungodly is basically not doing the will of God. Because if the world of ungodly was destroyed, that means that those that were left were godly. So there was good and evil, Jay. So let's not play too many games.
Eve came from Adam. Thou shalt not commit adultery, where they were the only ones. So, there was no reason for these things until sin came into the world through Adam. The same thing as with distinctions of there was served a commandment as to what animals you could eat or not eat would serve no purpose in a world where man didn't eat meat in the first place. It would serve no purpose. Because as you stated, when we read Genesis, man ate herbs all the way until after the flood, obviously because the flood destroys vegetation, and the only animal surviving besides the sea creatures is the animals that were saved on the ark.
I just want to say, with this bad understanding, when you make your refutation videos, you better not come with terrible, horrible, stupendous, horrendous, just unedifying, unlearned explanations, and then think you're gonna get away with it. Because that was just terrible. Did you hear Jay butchering up the scriptures trying to explain what it meant? And Proverbs 3 and 5 came to mind. And after this, I got to cut it, man, because there's just too much to get into. And I just want to see what they're going to come with, if they are going to come with a surprise. If they are. So let's read it. Proverbs 3 and 5. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. So, with that being said, they don't understand what they read. They have been smite with madness. They're blinded, and I mean, there's really not much else to say. But I'll come up. I'm gonna see if I can come up with another video tomorrow. If the Lord puts something on in my heart to lead up to this great refutation, that great thorough refutation that they proclaim that they're going to come up with, I would like to see it. But until then, read John 8 and 32 and know the truth shall make you free.
none of those concepts were being used in reference to like mandates, like, oh, you have to wear fringes or you have to not wear mixed fabrics. Those things were not commandments given to either to Abraham, to Noah, or to Adam, or any of the people. This is something that was given specifically to the children of Israel through the mediation of Moses.
Okay, that's first, that would be based off of going into a land and having a government. So some of those laws, and actually having a nation of people. So some of those laws are only applicable to a nation of people. So in that regard, yes, you're right. Now, when it comes to Noah, you are absolutely wrong. And I can tell you why. If you go back to Genesis 9:3, it says, every moving thing that lives shall be meat for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back to Bereshit 1, chapter
where
29.
He gave them where it says the meat, but see, you're going off of the King James English at that point.
No, I'm talking about what was given to man to eat. It says to every beast of the field, to every fowl of the air, he has given them every green herb to eat. But for us, we were to eat of the fruit of the ground and every herb bearing seed. So just like there were stipulations for what herbs and greens we were to eat, there were stipulations for what meats we were to eat, which is why Noah knew what was clean and what was unclean prior to even going on the ark. So there was no need. Huh?
But the problem is, David, the text is very clear. In fact, this is a verse that virtually all the Jews understood, was that the nations prior to Israel didn't have the mandate of the dietary laws. This verse has always been understood by everybody, both Christian and Jew, and his family could eat of the unclean animals. This is why when you look at the nations historically during the time of I guess you could say the uprising of the nation of Israel, when they were in the sojourning in the land of Egypt. Remember, they went in 70 and came out a nation. The funny thing is that all the nations round about them ate the unclean animals because they did not have the mandate forbidding them from eating unclean animals. They didn't. They did not have that mandate. That mandate doesn't come in until the time of Moses.